The moment the chandelier exploded, the world around me seemed to freeze, every fragment of crystal catching the light like tiny, merciless stars falling from a broken sky. The sharp crash echoed through the vast ballroom, silencing the murmurs, the clinking of glasses, even the soft music that had been playing moments before. Time, for an instant, stopped. Dominic stood at the center of it all, his expression flickering between shock and rage as the glass slipped from his fingers, spilling deep red wine across the polished marble floor. The guests, dressed in their finest, halted mid-conversation, their smiles vanishing as if erased by an invisible hand. This wasn't supposed to happen here. Not tonight, in this gilded cage of opulence. This was Dominic's moment, his victory, the grand unveiling of his so-called legacy. Yet, standing just outside the circle of sparkling light and broken glass, I felt something else entirely. The quiet, unyielding truth preparing to rip through the lies. For years, I'd watched the carefully constructed facade from a distance. The wealth, the smiles, the whispered secrets. And beneath it all, I'd sensed the fault lines. Tonight, those cracks widened into a chasm. I adjusted the worn strap of my Casio watch. A small, humble thing that had been with me through decades of quiet perseverance. The beep it gave was a steady reminder. Some constants remain true, no matter how much the world around them changes. Physics had taught me that, and now life was delivering its harshest lesson in integrity and consequence. Dominic, my older brother, was a man who believed money could buy anything: respect, love, even truth. He had spared no expense for this party. The country club ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers, each table dressed in fine linens and set with plates worth more than I earned in a month. Guests arrived in luxury cars, their designer shoes clicking confidently on the marble floor. And yet, despite all this grandeur, there was a tension under the surface, an electric charge in the air. Patricia, Dominic's wife, was the perfect hostess, her smile as polished as her expensive jewelry. But behind those practiced eyes, I saw something brittle, a shadow of fear. Their son, Brandon, hovered nervously between them, his flashy Rolex catching the light with every restless movement. Unlike the crowd, he wasn't dressed for the party. His modest clothes a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding him. I recognized that look in his eyes, the weight of expectations, confusion, and the silent question of who he really was. As the evening progressed, the room filled with familiar faces, some curious, some cautious. Catherine, a private investigator I'd come to trust, slipped in quietly, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd beneath her professional calm. Mrs. Agnes, our elderly neighbor, entered with unexpected determination, clutching her weathered garden journal filled with years of observations. James Crawford, a journalist whose career was just beginning, arrived last, his press credentials gleaming and a leather briefcase in hand. The look on Dominic's face when he saw James was telling, a flicker of unease beneath the practiced charm. Then Dominic took the stage, his voice booming through the room, confident and commanding. "Tonight, I celebrate not just a birthday, but a new chapter," he declared, gesturing to the 3 children who followed him into the light. Twins Alice and Adam, hand in hand, and little Sophie trailing behind. "My adopted children," Dominic said. "Though tonight I make it official. The papers are ready." The room buzzed with polite applause, but before Dominic could bask in his moment, James stepped forward, opening his briefcase. "Interesting," he said evenly, "because I have some papers of my own." Catherine flanked me, her folder open to reveal financial records. Mrs. Agnes set her garden journal on a nearby table, its pages spilling over with photographs and notes collected over decades. Robert Hayes, a retired behavioral psychologist, straightened, his gaze sharp and deliberate. Dominic's carefully woven narrative began to unravel. Each document, each photo, each fact exposed a truth no amount of money could cover. Secrets about the children, misappropriated funds, and a family built on deception. Patricia's mask cracked. "Don't," she whispered, desperation bleeding through her voice. "Don't reveal what we've hidden." But the truth, like dawn, was breaking. and there was no hiding from it anymore. The room held its breath, caught between disbelief and the slow burn of realization. Dominic's face hardened, his jaw clenched so tight I could almost hear the grinding of bone beneath the polished veneer. The air smelled faintly of expensive cologne and spilled wine, a strange cocktail for what was about to come. "I don't know what game you think you're playing," Dominic said, voice low and dangerous, "but you're treading on dangerous ground." Dangerous indeed? Because tonight wasn't just about exposing lies, it was about reclaiming a family that had been lost beneath years of greed and silence. I stepped forward, the weight of years pressing on my shoulders. "You built this house of cards, Dominic. You brought us all here with your charm and your promises. But tonight it falls. The truth doesn't care about appearances." Patricia's eyes flashed with a mixture of anger and fear. "You think you can tear this apart? After everything I've sacrificed?" Her voice cracked, a raw wound beneath the polished exterior. Brandon shifted uneasily, his fingers twitching as he caught my gaze. I saw the boy beneath the mask, uncertain, desperate for something real in the chaos around him. James opened a folder, sliding it toward Dominic. "These are bank statements, Dominic. Proof of offshore accounts and unexplained transfers. They don't lie." Dominic's hand trembled for the first time, but he masked it with a bitter smile. "You've got nothing." But that was the lie he clung to. Because the room was no longer on his side. The guests, once dazzled by wealth and power, now whispered in uneasy clusters. The fragile illusion shattered with every truth revealed. Catherine approached the podium, voice steady and clear. "And then there's the matter of the children." She glanced at the twins and Sophie, their faces pale under the weight of her words. Documents prove they were not only adopted under questionable circumstances, but that some signatures were forged. A murmur ran through the crowd. Patricia's hands clenched at her sides. Dominic's eyes darted wildly, searching for a way out, a way to reclaim control. But the tide had turned. "I won't let you destroy my family," Dominic growled, but the confidence was hollow. Suddenly, the lights flickered, a technical glitch or something more. In that brief darkness, a shout rang out. "Enough!" It was Robert Hayes, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "This isn't just about documents or money. It's about the damage done to trust, to love, to the very fabric that holds us together." He stepped forward, gaze locking with Dominic's. "You've played a dangerous game, Dominic, but the stakes are higher than you realized." Patricia sank into a chair, tears glistening in her eyes. The perfect hostess unraveling before everyone's eyes. "And me?" I realized then that this was more than a family feud. This was a reckoning. Because when the truth comes to light, there's no turning back. The sound of shattered porcelain echoed down the hallway like a gunshot. I turned instinctively, just in time to see Sophie stumble back from the table, her teacup lying in pieces on the marble floor. Her hands were shaking. Not from the mess she'd made, but from what she had just read. She was holding the letter. The one I never intended her to find. "I trusted you," she whispered, her voice barely audible, as though the truth was something sacred, too heavy to be spoken out loud. "Sophie," I took a step forward. "Don't." Her eyes met mine, and in them was a fury I hadn't seen since the night she ran away the first time. "Is this true? Am I not even theirs? Am I not who I thought I was?" The silence that followed was deafening. The twins were upstairs, unaware. Brandon was outside, smoking, pretending not to care. And Dominic? He was hiding. For once, silent. Patricia hadn't left her room since last night's disaster. I didn't mean for her to find the letter yet. I had planned to explain it carefully, gently, with space for her to ask all the questions. But now it was too late. The letter had done what Dominic never could, torn Sophie's reality in half. I nodded slowly. "You were adopted. But not the way they told you. Not out of love or compassion. You were a transaction." Her lips trembled, but she didn't cry. She never did. She'd learned too early that tears only made them laugh harder. "I always knew something was wrong," she muttered, half to herself. "The way they treated me. The way Patricia would praise the boys for doing nothing and punish me for breathing too loud. I thought I was imagining it. I thought I was broken." "You were never broken, Sophie." "They were." She clutched the letter like a weapon now, eyes burning. "They lied to me my whole life. And you were going to what? Wait for the perfect moment? There's no perfect moment for this." "No. But I was trying to protect you from more pain. From the storm that's about to break open over all of us." She laughed. Sharp. Bitter. "The storm is already here." She pushed past me, barefoot on the cold marble, and disappeared into the West Wing. I didn't follow. There are some things that even love can't mend right away. I turned back to the table and picked up the second envelope. The one with Brandon's name on it. I hadn't planned to give it to him yet either. But time, like loyalty, was a luxury we no longer had. Later that night, I found him in the garage, his hands smeared with oil, sleeves rolled up, the ghost of a real life clinging to him like cigarette smoke. "You look like hell," he said without looking up. "Same to you." I handed him the envelope. He wiped his hands, took it, and stared at my face. "Is this about Sophie?" "No. It's about you." He opened it slowly, deliberately, the way he did everything. And then I watched as the world shifted under his feet. Inside was a paternity test. The name he'd always written on legal forms as father wasn't his father at all. Dominic had known. Patricia had known. But they'd let him grow up believing he was an heir, a prince, a golden child. He wasn't. "Who is he?" Brandon finally asked, voice hollow. "Your real father was a driver. Vincent Reyes. He died before you were old enough to remember him. Patricia paid your mother to disappear. And Dominic, he used you. You were just a way to hold onto his image." Brandon's breath hitched. He sat down hard on a low stool, staring at the ground. "So I'm nothing." "No. You're the only one who might be something real." The wind howled outside, and for a long time we didn't speak. He finally looked up. "I'm going to burn this house down." I nodded. "Good. But not yet. First we finish what we started." That night, I stood outside Patricia's door. I could hear her inside humming almost peacefully. Like none of this had touched her. Like she'd survived every storm and would survive this one, too. But not this time. Because this time, the truth wasn't hiding in shadows. It was coming for them. For all of them. And I would be the one holding the torch. By morning, the mansion felt colder. Not from the weather, but from something else, something rotting beneath the floors, behind the walls, inside the bloodlines that held the family together like rusted chains. Sophie hadn't come out of her room since the night before. She locked the door, dragged her dresser in front of it, and spoke to no one. When I tried knocking, there was only silence. The kind that presses against your chest and tells you something's wrong, terribly, irreversibly wrong. Brandon had vanished. Left in his old rusted truck, no explanation. No goodbye. I knew he'd be back, but what he'd look like when he returned I wasn't sure. That left me. Alone in this house that reeked of wealth and decay. And Patricia. She came down for breakfast that morning dressed in a soft lavender robe cinched tight at the waist. Her makeup was immaculate, as if she'd spent hours erasing the night from her face. A porcelain mask. "You look tired," she said, voice like a knife wrapped in silk. "Rough night?" I stared at her across the dining room table. Everything was the same: eggs, toast, grapefruit sliced in perfect halves, except the air. The air was thick with all the things we weren't saying. "I gave Brandon the letter," I said. She didn't even flinch. "Good. About time. You knew." She laughed, a cold, dry sound. "Of course I knew. He deserved the truth. All of them do. Even Sophie. And yet you raised them like chess pieces. Brandon as your pawn. Sophie is the scapegoat. That's because she was never meant to stay. Dominic wanted to return her, you know. He called her a mistake." I clenched my fists. She was a child. She was a disruption, Patricia snapped. A stain on the family name. Every time I looked at her, I saw the lie. And lies have to be contained. "You mean controlled?" Patricia's eyes hardened. "Don't pretend you're above it. You knew what this family was when you walked in. You've played your part well." I stood. "Not anymore." She watched me go with amusement, not fear. That's what terrified me most. She wasn't afraid of the truth anymore. Because she thought it couldn't hurt her. She was wrong. Later that evening, I found a key in Dominic's old desk, a small, ornate thing, gold-plated, tucked inside a hollowed-out copy of The Art of War. I didn't need to guess where it led. The basement. The room no one talked about. The one Sophie had once said made the house feel alive and watching. The key turned with a soft click. The door creaked open. The air was different here, damp, metallic, thick with mildew and secrets. The staircase spiraled downward like the throat of a monster. At the bottom, I found the archive. Old photographs, documents, receipts, tapes. A whole gallery of sins cataloged and preserved with bureaucratic precision. Patricia had kept everything, maybe out of arrogance, maybe just for control. Among the boxes, I found a file marked Delta //abandoned contracts. Inside was Sophie's real adoption paperwork. But not just hers. There were others. Names, dates, children, experiments. The family business was never pharmaceuticals. It was trial and error. And Sophie? She wasn't just adopted. She was selected, monitored, watched like a lab rat behind golden bars. My stomach turned. And then I heard it, soft footsteps behind me. I turned fast, heart pounding. It was Sophie. She looked pale, eyes rimmed red. But her face was calm. Too calm. I followed you, she said. I saw the light from the hallway. I handed her the file. You need to see this. She didn't take it. She just stared at me. I already know. What? I found this place when I was 14, she said softly. I didn't understand it all then, but I kept coming back, trying to make sense of it. I think part of me always knew they weren't just cruel. They were testing me. My breath caught. Sophie, I'm not angry anymore, she said. I'm past that. Now I just want to end it. I saw it in her eyes, a resolve sharper than any blade. We both knew the truth now. And we were done running. We were going to bring the house down. All of it. That night, the storm came in hard. Lightning carved the sky into jagged veins and the trees bent like they were praying. The mansion groaned with the weight of secrets it could no longer carry. Sophie and I stood in the main hall just beneath the grand chandelier. She had the file clutched in one hand, a lighter in the other. I want her to see it burn, she whispered. But Patricia was already waiting. She descended the staircase like a queen coming down from her throne, calm, elegant, untouched by the chaos cracking around her. She stopped 3 steps above us and smiled. You two look dramatic. Should I applaud? Sophie stepped forward. You used me. I raised you, Patricia said. I gave you safety, food, education, a future. You gave me surveillance, gaslighting, control. You gave me a version of love so warped I thought it was my fault when I cried. Patricia's smile faltered for the first time. You think you're the first one to rebel? She asked. Do you know how many of you there were before? How many little girls ended up buried under that pretty garden out back? You're just the one who lasted. My blood turned to ice. Sophie's hand trembled. You can't threaten me anymore. I don't need to, Patricia said coldly. You'll ruin yourself. You always do. Sophie lit the edge of the file. The flame caught fast, paper curling, blackening, pages screaming as they turned to ash. The photos, the names, the contracts gone in seconds. Patricia didn't move. She just watched it burn with a calm, unreadable face. Then she turned to me. And you, she said. You think you saved her? I didn't answer. Because I hadn't saved Sophie. She'd saved herself. With the fire still crackling, Sophie walked past Patricia slowly, deliberately, and climbed the stairs. Not another word passed between them. Not that night. Not ever again. By morning, she was gone. Sophie left a note and nothing else. No phone number. No address. Just 3 words, scrawled across a torn piece of paper from the back of a ledger. Break the chain. I waited. Weeks. Then months. Patricia faded. The house withered. The business collapsed under federal investigations I may or may not have anonymously tipped off. She never went to prison. People like her rarely do. But she lost everything that mattered to her. Control, power, applause. And now, she lives alone, in a smaller house. No chandelier, no garden. I visit sometimes. I stand across the street and watch her through the windows, wondering if she ever dreams of fire. Sophie wrote me once, just once. A postcard, no return address. It had a picture of the sea, wild waves crashing on sharp cliffs. On the back, 5 words, still burning, don't look back. And I don't. I never do. But I still hear her voice sometimes. In my dreams. In the silence before the storm. And I still believe. Some houses aren't haunted by ghosts. They're haunted by the people who survive them.